Hey everybody, welcome to Hat Hole Home Video. So it just got announced that they are remaking the Blob. I don't know if that means they're remaking the 88 Blob, if they're remaking the original. All I can really hope is that it is not some sort of forced soft reboot of the 88 Blob. The 88 Blob has one of the greatest cliffhangers of all time. It's the preacher preaching end times in a sweaty tent. And after the events of the Blob, after the Blob's defeated, and, he's backstage taking a little sip of his alcohol. His face is all acid burned from the Blob. And lady comes backstage and she says, "When's the end times coming, Reverend? When?" And the preacher goes, "Soon, madam. Soon." And then he pulls up into frame the little glass jar that has a little bit of Blob inside it, darting around. And he looks at it and he says, "The Lord will give me a sign." So good. Really cool. You could have made, I think, a really cool sequel to that. Have the preacher you could have almost turned it into, like, eventually he creates like a religious cult around the Blob. I think that would have been really cool. But at this point, this many years later, please don't make a legacy sequel. Please don't make a soft reboot. Leave the 88 alone. Do your own thing. Completely reinvent it. But that's what we're here to talk about a little bit today. Are we talking about the new Blob and will it suck? And my answer is probably. Because as a fan of the 88 Blob, I watched the 88 Blob, and it is a gory movie. I watched it when I was probably 8 or 9 years old. I've told the story a million times, but I grew up next to a video store. And from a very early age, my parents told the guy that worked there, like, Brian can rent R-rated movies as long as he's not renting, like, erotic stuff, sexy stuff. Action movies, horror movies, it's cool. He can rent R-rated movies. So I was renting movies I should not have been watching at that age. It probably screwed me up forever, but I like me, so, I'm not complaining. But I watched The Blob, when I was, like, probably 9. And same with Return of the Living Dead, Monster Squad, although Monster Squad isn't, like, an R-rated horror movie. Oh, is it R-rated? Because they said, probably wasn't back then, right? But there's gore, and there's slurs and swearing. Probably is PG-13, I forget right now, but it's probably not R. But the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, 1, 2, and 3, specifically were the ones that I watched a ton at a young age. And then along with The Blob were all these movies that I just absolutely adored, made me a giant, rabid horror fan from a very, very early age. What draws you in, what you're connecting with, but I think we now know, we can look back and say that The Blob is just a phenomenally written movie. I think even if you took the Blob out of the movie, it's compelling characters, it's well written. But then you have the special effects of the Blob, the gore. It's just a top to bottom fantastic movie, and it takes that 50s vibe, that B-movie vibe from the original, and brought it forward by someone who has a love for those kinds of movies and adapted it into an 80s gory horror movie. It's just as perfect can be. This new one is not going to be that, is it? I think modern Hollywood screenwriting sucks. Dog shit is probably the right way to say it. I think modern effects, it's pretty much 100% CG, and there is something, the more advanced CG gets, the more homogenized and soulless it becomes. So I think you can make the Blob as complicated and cool and over the top as you want. I'm not going to connect with it. I'm not going to feel anything. I really hope they embrace physical effects. But we'll see. I kind of doubt it. With something like the Blob, they're going to say, wow, look at what we can do with computers now. And it's going to be a spectacle, and it's going to be the most boring loaf of white bread spectacle you've ever seen. And then, of course, the fun factor. The idea that an 80s horror movie was also paying homage to a 50s B drive-in movie, I think created this incredible atmosphere that is very rarely duplicated, and they're not going to make that in 2024. It's going to be dour. It's going to be weird. It's going to be Political, probably. Like, you can throw those sorts of things in, but when you try to turn the Blob itself into some sort of giant metaphor for either a political movement or for, new society absorbing the old society, I don't know. It will never be Blob 88. Let's make that very clear. There will never be another Blob 88, and hopefully any remake, good or bad, will point a new generation of fans into the direction of the 88 Blob. One of the young people I work with was like, oh yeah, we're going to go see Wonka tonight. And I watched the old one because I wanted to see it before I watched this. And they'd never watched it before. And like, whether you like something or don't like something, spoiler alert, she did not like it. She didn't like the old one, which I don't blame her for. This might be a hot take, but Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, there are some really magical moments in that movie, but for the most part, watching that movie, it makes me feel like I have a cold. And I don't really know how to explain it beyond that, but that's just how that movie makes me feel. In any case, when something comes out, it generates interest in what came before it. So we could only hope, if nothing else, a new generation is re-exposed to the 88 Blob and falls in love with it the way we did. So there you go. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.